Today I am discussing about end-to-end create order. First, let me explain about create order request, which is a simple but important POJO used in the PayPal order creation process. Create order request. It is very simple, but it's very important POJO. First, what is POJO? POJO is nothing but POJO stands for plain old Java object, and it's mainly used for data transfer between layers, and in this case from the controller to the service layer. POJO stands for plain old Java objects. It is mainly used for transfer bit layers. In this project, we are transferring from the controller to the service layer. Let me show you create order request class. This is create order request class. Here we used @data annotation. First, let me explain about this annotation. This is used for generating automatically, like getters for all fields, setters for all fields, and also string method. It automatically generates getters, setters, and also toString method. And also equals method, hash code methods. It's very useful for D2Os or POJOs like this one. So we can use request dot get the transaction reference directly without defining. If you have to create any getters and setters for the variables, if we use this annotation, it automatically generate the getters and setters for those variables. Let me show you. See, here we used these variables. Actually we have to create getters and setters for these variables, but here we are using @data annotation, so it automatically generates getters and setters to these variables. Now let's go through each field one by one. This private string, this is transaction reference, a unique string used to drag this order request. This variable is used to track order request. We send this as a custom header to PayPal, and it helps in idempotency, meaning it means even if the same request is sent again, PayPal knows not to duplicate it. So if we send again same request, then it knows it is a duplicate request. so it not duplicate it. See, another variable is private string amount. This is the amount to be paid. For example, $10, 10 rupees. Uh, which order contains which amount. So that things we store in this variable, means this field. We store it as a string because paper often expects amounts in string format to avoid precision errors. So it takes the data in string format. So that's why we used string. Next one is private string currency. This is the currency code like USD for US dollars or INR for Indian rupees. This will be mapped into the paymail amount object during request creation. Next one is return URL. This is the success URL where the user will be redirected after a successful PayPal payment. See, when the customer pays amount and it's successful, then it redirect after a successful payment. It could point to your front end like URL like myapp.com/payment/success. When the payment is success, then you redirect it to main homepage. If the success is failed, then redirected to cancel URL. This is the cancel URL. If the user cancels or fails the payment on PayPal space, then it will be redirected to here. So finally, create order request is the object that holds the input from the client when creating a new PayPal order. It is passed from the controller to the service and then used in the helper to build a structured PayPal request. @ data is very important annotation. So we know not to create any getters or setters. So it's very important. This is all about create order request. Again, next, let me explain about create order helper class. See here. I will explain the create order helper class in PayPal provider microservice project. This class helps to prepare the HTTP request that be sent to PayPal when a new order is being created. It handles things like setting headers, structuring the JSON body from PayPal API, logging and converting objects to JSON. Now let's go line by line. See, here we used some annotations like component, SLF4J, required arcs, constructor. First, let me tell about Annotations. These are class level annotations. First, let me explain about component annotation. Now we are discussing about create order helper class. This annotation tells to Spring that treat this class as a Spring managed bean. That means it can be injected anywhere using @auto-void annotation or via constructor injection. So it is used to treat the class as Spring managed bean. Next annotation that we used is @slf4j. Why we use this annotation? Because from Longbox it gives us a logger object. It is used if we have to print any statement. Actually we use system.out.println. But in real world it is in best practice is to use log.info logger method. So we can print it in console. It contains in Lombok. By using log.info, we can print the information in console. Next annotation that we used in this class is required args constructor. This is also from Lombok. It automatically creates a constructor for any final fields in the class. It automatically creates constructor for any final fields. So we don't need to create separately constructors for final fields. In our class, see here we created one final class, private final JSON utils reference name. So For this, we no need to create separately constructor class. When you used this annotation at the required constructor, required args constructor, then generates a constructor with required arguments. Required arguments are final fields and fields with constants such as null. So it automatically creates a constructor for these final fields. This means Spring can inject JSON utils without needing to manually write a constructor. Next is these are field injections. This will read the value of PayPal create order URL from application.properties. So here we used @value. These are field injections. First let me explain about what is this annotation. @value. This annotation will read the value of PayPal.create order URL from application.properties. It is field injection. For example, we take URL from sandbox. Here we used method prepare HTTP request for create order. Let's break this method line by line. This is the heart of the class. Means it is very important in this class. Here we take arguments as create order request and access token. This method accepts access token and returns a HTTP request object ready to send. It accepts a request object containing order data and access token. This is step 1. Building headers. Next is to create amount. Create an amount object and set currency like USD, amount like 10. These values are fetched from the incoming request object. See, first we have to build headers. Next we have to create amount object, and then we have to create purchase unit. A purchase unit groups information about the item being purchased. Which the items are purchased, those are stored in this purchase unit. It holds the amount object we just created. Next one is creating experience context. This part customizes the user experience on the PayPal page. See immediate page and login page. No shipping required. Show login screen. Users quickly pay now. Return URL, cancel URL. When user clicks on pay now, set where to go after success or cancel. These values come from constants and from the request. Next step is these are wrapped in PayPal object. The PayPal object wraps are the experience settings is here. Next step is wrapping payment source. This object wraps PayPal specific configurations into a payment source object. So it is used to wrapping the data like PayPal specific configurations into a payment source object. Next step is creating final payment request object. Here intent equals to capture tells PayPal we want to capture funds immediately. It tells that we have to capture the funds immediately. Purchase units holds the product details, and payment source has PayPal related preferences. This builds the full structure PayPal that expects. And last, we have to convert it into JSON objects. We convert our Java objects into a JSON string using a custom utility classes, that means JSON utils. Then log it to confirm that we will send to PayPal. Next, final step is to validate it. Basic null check is if for some reason the JSON is null, we throw an exception and log an error. If in case JSON object is null, then we have to throw an exception and log an error. We have to throw an runtime exception. And at last, we have to create HTTP request object. We finally set a method to post and adding the target to the PayPal URL and setting the headers and setting the JSON request body, and then we log the full request and return it. And this object is now ready to be sent to PayPal's order creation API. So finally, this order class, helper class, is used to prepare a valid HTTP request to create an order in PayPal. It organizes and builds all the required fields, including headers, payment information, experience, preferences, and finally converts everything to JSON. We use it in service layer so that we don't clutter our business logic with raw HTTP construction. And finally, thanks to these annotations like @component, SLF4J, required args constructor, @value, this class is now clean and testable and auto injected wherever needed. So annotations reduces our work and keep our code clean and easy to understand and easy to maintain. So finally, this class helps to prepare a valid HTTP request and that to create an order in PayPal. That's how we create end-to-end create order. Here we used create order request. So here we created what order requires, like transaction reference, amount, currency, return URL, and cancel URL. Next, create order helper. This class helps to prepare a valid HTTP request that to create an order in PayPal. In this class, it organizes and builds the required fields like headers, payment information, and experience. And finally, it converts everything into JSON. Thank you. That's all today. That is an end-to-end create order in PayPal provider service.